Hey Geometry. Today I am going to teach you how to do your project for our transformation unit, which these are called tessellations. So it's like a combo art and geometry idea. So this is an example that a student had made in a year before. So a tessellation is a fancy word for a tiling. So it's where we use the same shape to completely cover the surface. So all of these are exactly the same shape, but they've been transformed in some way, either just by a slide, by a turn, or by a flip. So the most boring example of a tessellation would be like maybe your kitchen or bathroom floor, just square tiles. They're squares, they completely fill the space using the same shape, but that's boring. So we're going to use a more fun figure. So this is an example a student had made, and this is another example. That's another example. So lots of examples here of ones that students have made in the past. So I'm going to show you how to do this because you might be looking at it and thinking like, oh my goodness, Mrs. Strayer, I am not an art student. I can't do that. And so if you're thinking that, just remember that I also am not very good at art usually. And so if I can do it, you can do it. So here's what you're going to need. I am posting this paper on Schoology, so you can download it and print it if you have a printer. It's just a template for some 2" by 2" squares. So if you have a printer, you can print it. If you don't have a printer, then you're just going to want a ruler so that you can measure out 2 inches and make squares. Now you're going to want to make that square on a thicker material. So like a cardstock paper. So this one I've already cut squares out of, but like a heavier paper, not computer paper, but one that has a little bit of stiffness to it. If you don't have any cardstock paper in your house, then maybe you have like a leftover cereal box or pasta box. And so then I could just, use some of this. This would be really good because it's nice and stiff, but not too hard to cut as well. That's it. We need to be able to cut it. So it can't be super thick, but we want it to be able to hold its shape better than computer paper would. Okay, so you could use this. And so if you have your templates, you're gonna cut one of those out and then just trace it onto your cardboard, or if you have cardstock, you could maybe just print it right onto your cardstock paper and cut out those squares then. But otherwise, just cut a square out of your paper and then maybe put it right in a corner of the box so that you only have to trace 2 sides. Again, if you don't have a printer to print out the templates, then you're just going to grab a ruler, and we want them to be about 2 inches. So I'm going to take my ruler and I would measure out 2 inches, in one direction, 2 inches another direction, and make a square. Now it's important that it actually is a pretty good square, so we really want those corners to be right angles to the best of our ability. Okay, so whether you're using a ruler or the templates, whether you're using cardstock or kind of that lightweight cardboard of like a cereal box, somehow you got to come up with a little square. And this is what we start with. Now this is a tile, but it's a really boring tile, right? So we're not just going to use this. We're going to alter it. So how we're going to alter it is with scissors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut that goes all the way from corner to corner on one side. So not diagonal corners, but adjacent corners. And I'm going to go all the way from corner to corner. That's the easiest. If you only cut off part of the side, it's trickier to get everything to line up in the end. So I'm going to go from corner to corner. You can pre-plan if you want and like use a pencil or a pen to kind of draw what you're going to cut. I'm just going to kind of freehand this, and I'm going to make a cut into this. Now I don't want to hit any of the other sides. I'm just cutting off the one side, and I'm going to go all the way from corner right to the other corner. Okay, so you can do something really fancy and curvy and frilly, or not so much. It's totally up to you. This is your art project. So I cut this piece out of here. See, it fits perfectly in there. Now I have 3 options of what I want to do with this little piece that I cut out. And those line up with our 3 types of rigid transformations. So we're not going to be doing dilations where these figures are going to become different sizes, because that would be really tricky, unless, I guess, if you had a copy machine and you could blow it up on a copy machine, but it's very tricky. So we're going to be using our rigid transformations that keep things the same size. And so our options are translation or a slide. So if that's what I want to do, I'm going to take this piece that I cut out and I'm going to slide it across to the other side. And then I would grab a piece of Scotch tape and I would tape it on there. Okay, so that's option number 1. Option number 1 is translation or slide. I'm going to take that piece that I cut out and I'm going to slide it straight across to the other side and I'm going to tape it on. Okay, option number 2 is rotation. So rotation is a turn. To do a rotation, what I'm going to do is pinch one corner and then I'm going to turn that piece that I cut out and I'm going to tape it to the neighbor side. Okay, so then that would look like this. Okay, so rotation, I hold it in its place. I'm going to pinch one of the corners. Doesn't matter which one, top or bottom. It's just easier for me to pinch the bottom here. So I'm going to pinch one of the corners and I'm going to turn or rotate it onto its neighbor side. And then again, I would grab my Scotch tape and I would tape it in place there. So that's option number 2, turn or rotate. Option number 3 is reflect. To do a reflection, what we're going to do is a reflection's a flip. So I'm going to flip this upside down. Okay, see how that, oops, dropped it. Okay, so this is my piece right here, fits perfectly in. Now reflection, I'm going to flip, because that's what a reflection is a flip. And then I'm going to tape it onto the opposite side, because I can't tape it back on the same side because it don't fit anymore. So I'm going to tape it back onto the opposite side. So it's still going to have a slide with it too. Okay, so third option, reflection. I take this piece that I cut out, I flip it over, and I tape it to the opposite side. Okay, so I'm going to do the flip. So it's flipped upside down right now. I'm going to leave it there like that, and I'm going to go ahead and tape that in place. And I'm setting it down on a table because I find that easiest to tape it in place. So if I try to hold it like in the air, then it doesn't line up real great. So if I just lay them down next to each other on a table and then I can just put the Scotch tape right on top of it. Now it's all lined up perfect corner to corner, and see how it's flipped over. My cut is angling in one way and the part coming out is angling out the other way. Okay, so we made one change to it. So it's more interesting than just a square now. But still not done. We're going to do the same thing to the other sides. So again, I'm going to grab my scissors. I'm going to cut from corner to corner of the original square, one of the 2 sides that hasn't been altered yet. And again, you can pre-plan or you can just kind of freehand it. Don't run into where you made your previous cuts. Okay, just make sure you're going corner to corner. And all right, so now I cut this piece over here, and I want to do the exact same thing that I did with this first one. So since with the first one, I did a flip and tape across, I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to flip and move across to the other side, and I'm going to tape it in place over there. Okay, same exact thing for both of the transformations that we make to our tile. Don't try to do one turn and one flip or something. That's not going to work well. So same exact transformation. So since I started with flip, I'm going to do a flip again. And again, I'm setting it down on the table because if I just kind of lay them down next to each other, then I can tape them in place the easiest. You want to not really have like a gap in between. See right here, I want them to be right next to each other and also perfect corner to corner. So now here's my tile. So that's a lot more interesting than just a square. And it's going to perfectly fit together on a paper. So that's the last thing you need is just a sheet of paper. And I will angle the camera down and show you how I get started on this. So here's my paper, here's my tile. You can start anywhere you want on the paper. It doesn't matter. For me, what I usually do is I like to just start in a corner. I don't know, I'm just very type A and organized. So even in an art project, I have trouble just going like, blah. So I'm going to start right in a corner, and I'm actually even having it hang off of the paper. I lined up what was left of the corner of my square with the corner of the paper. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do that. You could start it like this. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully, but it's not hanging off the paper. It's just right on the edge of the paper. But I'm going to start mine up here in the corner, and I'm going to trace whatever parts are on the paper. So pencil or pen, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to trace around my stencil here. You want to trace as good as you can, not a sloppy trace, but you want it to be as good of a trace as you can, because then they're going to have to fit together. So hopefully you can see that. I don't know. I can't see because okay, so it's pretty light, but you can see the outline there. Okay, so that's my first tracing. Now, to do my next tracing, they have to fit perfectly together like a puzzle, and how you're going to do that depends on the kind of transformation that you did. So if you did a slide, you should be able to slide it over and have it fit together, but that doesn't fit together for me. If you did a turn, you should be able to turn your stencil 90 degrees and have it fit together, but that doesn't work for me because that's not what I did. What I did was I flipped it over. So I'm going to flip it over and now make them fit together like a puzzle. There we go, it fits together right there. They should always fit perfectly together like a puzzle. If they don't, you're doing it wrong. So make sure that they are fitting together perfectly like a puzzle, leaving no gaps. And I'm going to trace around all of the edges here, except for the one where I fit it together, because that's already traced there. And so then now I have my second copy of my shape there. Okay, so now I got two of them, so then I keep going. So it was sitting like this, and since my transformation was a flip, I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna line it up again, put that point right in there, and then I'm gonna trace around the sides of my stencil. All right, so then now I got my third one there, so I'm building across my paper. Now when I come down here, you might be like, oh, how's this gonna work? Remember, it has to fit. It should fit like a puzzle. So I'm gonna line up those little bumps there, and there we go, it fits. So I'm going to trace out the sides of this. I'm tracing very quickly because I'm trying to not make this video be super long, but you do want a good clean trace, otherwise it's gonna be trickier. Okay, so there's my next tracing here. Now I can see a new shape's gonna have to go right here, and how's it gonna go? Well, this is how I did my last tracing, and so I should do a flip. So I'm gonna flip it upside down, and there, it fits perfectly together. That little finger sticks out there, or lightning bolt, I don't know, whatever you might decide you think it looks like. Maybe you think it looks like something, maybe you don't. But we're going to trace out all around. And so there's that. Okay, so you're going to continue doing that until your entire paper is covered. Entire paper edge to edge means they should actually be falling off the edge, just like these ones are, where I couldn't actually even trace the full thing because it was falling off the paper. You want it that way all the way around. You don't want to leave any blank spots. You want it to be completely full of your shape. Okay, once it's completely full of your shape, color it. You can use markers, crayons, colored pencils. It does not have to be colorful, but it does have to be colored. So I'll show you some examples of student projects again. So this one, the student actually pre-planned what they wanted it to be and cut out some palm trees. And here we can actually see the stencil that they used for that. And then we'd want to think about, well, what kind of transformation was this? Well, the trees came from the adjacent side, so this was a turn. And we can see that for her to fit this together, she had to turn her piece each time to make those trees fit together. So that was a rotation. Right? This student did not pre-plan. We can see her tile here. She just made some kind of random cuts there, and then we'd want to think about, well, what did she do with these pieces? It's a slide. Okay, so this was a slide, And so then she just slid her tile across the paper and she looked at it and thought, oh, what does that look like to me? I think it kind of looks like Popeye. Or maybe it kind of looks like a bear. I don't know. So she colored it both ways. All right. The student pre-planned. She decided to do the bird. This is actually a reflection, and I can tell that by looking at the picture because some birds are right way up and some of them are upside down. So she had to do a flip with her tile. She colored the first one like the hummingbird, and then she was like, oh, that was a lot of work. So then she just did the rest of them black and white, and it still adds a pop of interest there, okay? So this one's another reflection. I can tell because some of them are right way up and some of them are upside down. Some of them are facing right and some of them are facing left. And here's the tile, okay? It wasn't pre-planned. It was just very geometric shapes even, really kind of semicircles and triangles that were cut out, and then just kind of decided, oh, it's a little bit like a cartoon character, so I'm just gonna put eyeballs on it, okay? Here's a slide, okay? Just slide that stencil down the paper and across the paper. Now, one thing this student did, it is actually altered on all four sides, but it's kind of hard to see. So obviously there's that zigzaggy coming out, but this, it has a little bit of a rounded edge to it. I'd want a little bit more of a transformation there probably, because it still kind of just looks like a straight line, but you can see right here, it's not, there was an alteration there, but it's a little bit harder to see, okay? That one was not pre-planned, so sometimes you might just make your stencil and decide it looks like something. It's kind of like cloud watching. So then color it to help other people see it. Or maybe you'll just decide, no, that doesn't really look like anything to me, and then you'll just color it. Okay, color it like stained glass then or something. But again, it doesn't have to be colorful, it just has to be colored. I don't just want the outlines. So this student just kind of used a Sharpie and on like every other tracing added in the little bits of sketch lines just to add some interest. So it looks like art, it doesn't just look like a tracing, okay? So make sure that you add something to it in terms of coloring, even if it's not colorful. Here's another one, just black and white, right? Or black and white and gray. So it doesn't have to be super colorful, but it does need to be colored. Okay, so you are actually going to make 2 of these. The 2 that you make need to be 2 different tiles using 2 different types of transformations, okay? So for me, I started making this one and I used a reflection. So I'm going to completely fill up this paper using this one same tile that I made, doing my reflection. Okay, completely fill up the whole paper using this one tile, using reflection. I'm gonna color it, that part's done. Then I'm gonna cut out another square. I'm gonna make a new tile doing something other than reflection, because I already did reflection. So then I'm going to either do the rotation or I'm gonna do the translation, and I'm gonna make a second paper. So your final project, when you submit it, should have 2 fully drawn out pieces of paper using 2 different types of transformations. So there's 3 types of transformations. You have to choose 2 of them, right? So do one, I did one reflection, and then I'm gonna do a second one. I could either do a translation or a rotation, my choice on that, okay? But you're gonna turn in 2 completely covered pieces of paper, okay? When you do this, you're gonna put a picture of your tessellations in the slideshow to submit, and a picture of your tile. I want to see the actual tile, okay? So take a picture of your tile, take a picture of your finished product, and title the slide. So up at the top where it says like title on the slide, title it with the type of transformation that you did. So if you believe you did a reflection, which is what I believe I did here, then I'm going to title that slide reflection, and then I'm going to have the picture of my finished project, which I didn't finish it yet, and my tile, right? If you decided to, it looks like something, then you could also put that in there with it. So this student could label hers translation crab, okay? Or, this student could label his translation pumpkin patch. Okay, if you want to give it like an artistic title as well, go ahead and do that. But you have to tell me what kind of transformation you believe you did, and you have to show me your tile and a picture of your finished colored sheet, totally edge to edge. Whatever questions you have while you are working on this. Oh, my computer just went to sleep. That was strange. Okay. Whatever questions you have while you are working on this, just shoot them to me in an email, Schoology message. I will get back to you. If we need to video chat as you're working on it, because you're like, it's not, how do I fit it together? I probably can't explain that to you on email, so we can video chat with Google Messages or Google Meets, and I can help you out on this. You know, if we were in the classroom, I would be constantly circulating while you're working on this to help you out, but alas, I cannot circulate in your homes. So please, please, please communicate with me. Any questions you have while you are working on this, I am happy to help via email if possible, Google Meet probably more likely, and don't feel like you are imposing on me. This is literally my job, is to help you. So when you have questions, please ask them so that I can help you out, okay? I think that is all for now. So have fun, okay? It's not a test, so it's just a little project, a coloring project even, to finish out the school year. So I can't wait to see what you come up with. See you soon.